Ito ang nakakagulat. Hihimukin umano ng congressman na si Rodante Marcoleta ang House Speaker ng Kamara na si Martin Romualdez upang magbitiw na lamang sa kanyang pwesto oras na mapatunayan ito na siya nga ang pasimuno sa ginagawa ngayong People's Initiative ng Kongreso na tila umubos ng milyong-milyong piso mula sa kaban ng bayan dahil sa kanyang pansariling interes. Ginamit din anya ni Romualdez ang pagbibigay ng ayuda sa mga kapuspalad nating mga kababayan kapalit ng kanilang pirma upang makakuha sila ng sapat na porsyento at tuluyan ng baguhin ang ating saligang batas. Layunin kasi ng inisyatibong ito na palitan ang ating konstitusyon upang manatili sila sa pwesto at kapangyarihan nang sa ganon ay mas marami pa silang maibulsa mula sa pera ng taong bayan at upang makamit na rin ni Tambaluslos ang kanyang ambisyon sa buhay na maging isang ganap na Prime Minister sa bagong konstitusyon dahil alam umano nitong hindi siya mananalo kung idadaan lamang ito sa normal na botohan. Marami na rin umanong ebidensya ang lumalabas at nagtuturo na si Romualdez talaga ang utak ng lahat ng ito, maging ang mga kaguluhang nangyayari sa ating bansa na siyang dahilan kung bakit nagkawatak-watak muli ang mga Pilipino. Kaya naman dahil nga sa balitang ito ay hindi na nga nakapagpigil pa ang ilan sa ating mga kababayan na maglabas ng kani-kanilang hinaing at komento sa mundo ng social media. Ayon nga sa kanila, dapat hindi lang mag-resign, ipakulong, hindi biro ang ginawa niyang gulo sa pagitan ng Marcos at Duterte. Mag-resign ka na, Martin Romualdez, huwag kang mang-agaw ng pwesto, lumaban ka ng patas, hintayin mo ang 2028 para makita kung gusto ka talaga ng taong bayan. Pag hindi nyo pinalitan yan sa pwesto, wala nang mangyayari sa Pilipinas, maghihirap lang tayo ng gusto, kaya kilos na, wag nang antaying maubos ang pera ng taong bayan, kasuhan yan at ikulong. At narito, panoorin pa natin ang buong video.
I'm not defending the Speaker. If this congressional hearing ultimately found that the Speaker is the one who spearheaded this or funded this initiative, I will probably request him to step down. Pero kung hindi po siya naman, bakit hindi po natin kinonsentrate kay Anthony Abad? Siya po yung bida dito eh. Siya po ang pinakasentro nito. Siya ang nagsasabi dito na pinaliwanag niya sa tao. Nagsabi po ng mga tao, we fully understand the rationale of this proposition. We fully understand the consequences, the effects, and the advantages of this proposition. Gusto nating malaman, talaga bang ginawa niya single-handedly, although et al. Ito, but to undertake and to mobilize an undertaking nationwide, to be able to get at least 8 million votes. Kaya po ba ng isang tao? Why don't we begin with Anthony Abad? Who is he? Anthony Abad, based on the Google, Madam Chair, specializes in international trade law. He has been in legal practice for 17 years, and he is at present an independent advisor of the Philippine Senate.
May I know, Madam Chair?
Nasa Google po. At
kung sino-
nakalagay din po
sino
sa Google, he took his oath before the office of Senator Aquilino Pimentel. Nasa Google po. Kaya kailangan po nating makita lahat eh. Sa Google po yan.
I was also shown that picture pero hindi ko ma-date eh. Mukhang bata pa kami noon eh. So so must have been years ago. And if we are talking about this, that if he is also that Anthony Abad named in the signature sheet, so we are assuming a lot of things. Pero right now he's not a consultant of my office. But so kailangan pasiputin natin itong Attorney Anthony A. Abad. So,
Triple A.
Yes.
Attorney Anthony A. Abad.
So, para malaman po natin. And if that person seen in the picture taking an oath before me, if he will admit that he is the one, then we're talking about the same person. But he's not a consultant of my office, so I don't think he's also a consultant of the Senate. Wala. So maybe that was siguro part of his biodata. Siguro once upon a time, baka nangyari yun. And then, since nandito na rin tayo sa topic na ito, the burden is all with Attorney Anthony A. Abad because no other lawyer can file that petition and claim that he or she is under that et al. Hindi mo pwede yun. So it's only if the signatures are genuine and real and then freely given, it is only this attorney, Anthony A. Abad, whom they have authorized to file the petition. No person, no lawyer can claim to be et al. Kasi hindi siya pinangalanan. So that's my theory. Kaya I agree with Congressman Marcoleta. We really have to identify who is. Pero medyo common name kasi yan. There might be more than one Anthony A. Abad who happens also to be a lawyer. So
Yes,
we need to
Senator,
look for
but
this person.
We can start with him.
Yes,
This is an A4 sheet of paper.
that's right.
10 signatories per sheet. If Anthony Abad is out to get 8 million votes to satisfy the threshold of 8 million, this is the requisite of the People's Initiative, he will need 800,000 pieces of this A sheet. Nakita ko po yung nakakuha ko ng isang ream nito. This paper was imported from Indonesia. This is 70 GSM. I want to ask Anthony Abad, kinuwenta ko po kung magkano siguro about 1,500 something reams. ₱500,000 pesos, ito pala mong papel. Ipiprint mo ito, palagay mo na lang 2 piso. 800,000 seats at 1.6 million plus 500, that's about 2 million. Saan niya kinuha ni Anthony Abad? Maybe we can ask questions directly from this guy. Hindi yung mga nakatakip ang mukha. They're so brave enough not to be able to expose their faces in the public. I'm sorry, Mr. Senate President, but I read your rules on evidence. If the substantive rights of people affected in this hearing, they should also be protected. How can we, for example, confront the accusers if they are all masked? Hindi po ganito. I am not defending the Speaker of the House of Representatives. I will repeat this. If this investigation will find out na siya po ang nagpondo, I will politely ask him to step down. Pero alimbawa po kung ito'y ginawa ni Anthony Abad out of exasperation, out of frustration, because I think for the longest time, the House of Representatives have been inviting the Senate to meet with us on a constituent assembly, and the Senate repeatedly refused us. This is on record, Madam Chair. Kahit kailan po hindi natin magagampanan, hindi natin magagamit yung isang modality to change the Constitution, which is the Constituent Assembly. Every time an invitation is issued to the Senate by the House, ang answer po, dead ma. Dead ma. So kailan po natin gagamitin ng Constituent Assembly? We cannot. It's impossible. Sasagot sinasabi ng Senate, well, ang dami pong Okay, bago kami makipag-meet sa inyo, you will have to agree that separate voting. Ganun po palagang nangyayari. Ito po ang nangyari. Ako po matagal na sa Congress. Kung hindi ako nagkakamali, Madam Chair, panahon pa po ni Speaker Belmonte, pinag-iisipan na natin to. Restrictive economic provisions, blah, 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 blah. But we never agreed just to meet. Alam po ninyo, Madam Chair, ang pinag-uusapan, mag-meet lang po tayo. Tsaka na po natin pag-uusapan kung yung 3/4 is voting separately or not.
Pero, yes, Madam Chair.
Pero
Yes,
wala
I
po
think,
tayo.
Tama observation ni Attorney Marcoleta, but that cannot be forced. If the Senate does not want to amend the Constitution through a Constituent Assembly, the House cannot force it. Ganun lang po yun, as simple as that. So therefore,
No one is forcing, Senator.
precisely. So, there should be no complaint kasi we are two autonomous bodies. Ayaw nung isa makimit sa Constituent Assembly.
The
So,
complaint arises from the fact that you do not want to meet with us. So
Madam
ang
Chair.
question, how can we make use of that particular
Yes,
modality? It is the first modality.
yes, that means that the present composition of both houses cannot avail of that mode kasi ayaw nga nung isang house makimit. So, ano na po yan? That's a political question gamitin sa issues sa election. Pero our problem with the PI is yun na nga. Therefore, we suspected some politicians to be behind the PI because ang tinutumbok ng People's Initiative is the procedure sa Constituent Assembly.
That's
And
right.
changing the natural meaning of that section,
That's
Madam
correct.
Chair. So that's
and
the...
with all due
Yan
respect
yung flow,
to
yes.
Congressman Marcoleta, that's likely a subject of another hearing and another meeting and perhaps a more confident and benign meeting of the minds at another time. But a quick word from Congressman Marcoleta. We have session at 3 o'clock.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I wish to take advantage of the presence of our distinguished former associate justices of the Supreme Court when, in particular, they say that the amended, or the recommended amendment to the Constitution by way of a people's initiative is more of a revision than an amendment, citing that it will violate section or Article 6 of the Philippine Constitution. Madam Chair, the way this is my personal opinion, when we call for the congressional or the constituent assembly, it's the first mode to amend the Constitution or revise the Constitution. It says, amendment to or revision of this Constitution may be proposed by, 1, the Congress upon 3/4 vote of all its members. So I'll proceed from that. When the Constitution simply say of all the members of Congress, it takes the totality of the members of the House of Representatives and then the Senate. Paano po yun, Justice Ascuna or Justice Carpio? Ang sabi po ninyo, if for example the members of the Senate would not agree, kunwari po, inimbitahan namin sila but they did not go there, or probably 2 or 3 only of them came in, and so hindi po represented ang Constituent Assembly. So there will be no time at all that we will be utilize that particular mode of amending the Constitution by simply for the Senate to refuse to go with us and meet with us as a Constituent Assembly. Wala pong mangyayari, at yung pong napakahalagang provision na itinakda ng gumawa ng saligang batas para susugin ang saligang batas ay hindi po mangyayari kahit kailan. The House of Representatives will be at the mercy of the Senate. Kasi sasabihin lang po nila, wala po kaming 3/4, sir. I'm sorry. And this has been the case. I have been long enough in Congress to see that our invitations were not even responded to. Wala pong nangyari. The Senate, with all due respect, sat on all the invitations. RBH1, RBH2, whatever RBH. Wala pong mangyayari. Siguro po, sa akin lang palagay, pag sinabi niyang 3/4 of all the members of Congress, we get the totality of the members. Halimbawa po, ngayon po ay 309 ang members ng House of Representatives. There are 24 members of the Senate. We have 333. 3/4 of that is 249, I think. So sabi po ng ating mga kaibigan sa Senate, matadilute naman kami. Tama naman po yun eh. 300 po kami, 24 sila. But that is the simple language of the Constitution. Yun po yung sinabi. Alam nga naman pong yung 300 ay lulunurin ng isang timbang tubig, Mr. Justice. So kailan po mangyayari talaga? It will not even be in the foreseeable future. Maybe we will wait for all eternity para lang po mapapayag namin ang aming mga kaibigan from the Senate to meet with us. Mag-uusap lamang po kami, hindi po mangyayari. Just the invitation. Wala pong mangyayari. Para pag-usapan namin whether we will vote separately or jointly. But in my own personal opinion, kasi po, hindi po kami gagawa ng batas. When we join ourselves as a Constituent Assembly, we are not making legislative function. We're not doing legislative function. In the same manner, in Section 18, Article 7, kapag ka po i-revoke natin ang proclamation ng martial law, sabi po ng article, Congress voting jointly by a vote of at least a majority of all its members. Ganon din po yung pagkakasabi. Why? Wala pong legislation involved doon. When we propose an amendment to the Constitution, we are simply a member of the Constituent Assembly. Kaya nga po iraratify po ng ating mamamayan through a plebiscite. In Section 19, last paragraph of Article 7, sinabi, when the President shall have the power to grant amnesty with the consensus of a majority of all the members of Congress. That is not legislative. Kaya po pwede po yung joint eh. Nangyayari lang po yung bicameral pag gagawa po kami ng batas. Tama po yung sinabi ni Majority Leader Joel Villanueva. Magpapalit po kami ng kalye. Legislation po yun eh. So magbabicam po yun. In this case, we are not doing legislative function. We are simply proposing an amendment to the Constitution. That is a constituent power. Ginagamit po namin, that is not legislative. Ang totoo po noon, ang mag-a-approve naman po ng aming proposal, yun pong mga mamamayan natin. Siguro po, Madam Chair, it is a respectful request for everybody to consider na baka naman po hindi separate voting talaga. Kasi po, ang totoo niyan, yung gumawa po ng saligang batas, Madam Chair, kung gusto po niyang i-distinguish, isa na lamang po. Sabi po nila, katulad po nung Section 11, last paragraph, Article 7, kung gusto po nung gumawa ng saligang batas na i-distinguish talaga, joint voting, joint assembly, ganito po sinasabi, Section 11, last paragraph, Article 7. Congress determines by 2/3 vote of both houses voting separately, tingnan po ninyo, of both houses voting separately that the President is unable to discharge the powers of his duties. Dinidistingue po niya eh. Section 9, Article 7. In case of a vacancy in the office of the Vice President, the President's nominee from the Senate or House of Representatives shall assume office upon confirmation of a majority vote of all the members, both of both houses, voting separately. So, Madam Chair, may pagkakataon po sa buhay ng ating saligang batas, kung minsan sasabihin niya na, i-distingue niya, voting jointly, or in joint assembly, voting separately. But in this case po, napansin ko, pagka po hindi tayo gumagawa ng batas, if we are not in a legislative work, ang sinasabi po ng gumawa ng saligang batas, it is simple, the totality of all the members of Congress. Kaya tingin ko po doon, joint voting. Salamat po.